you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Kristen Brooks. I am the internship coordinator at Keene State College. And tonight we are hosting the Career Speaker Series. It's an event that's in coordination with the Alumni Association, Academic and Career Advising, as well as our Aspire programs, who have organized this event this upcoming spring. And the Career Speakers is a series of events that connects alumni to current students to share about topics like internship opportunities, as well as career pathways, grad school. And then our last topic later on in May, we'll be talking with some Keene State College alumni who are HR recruiters and sharing how students can get a job after graduating from Keene State. So again, thank you so much for our panelists, our students, faculty, and staff for joining us. We're gonna go ahead and kick it off with our panel members. I think what would be helpful to everyone, just kind of a few housekeeping things. Make sure everyone's on mute. There is going to be an opportunity for question and answer a little bit later on. But if you could just change your view to speaker view, so that way you can see the individuals in the panels speaking. So I'm gonna go ahead and kick it off with Jessica. She's gonna start by introducing, panelists will start by introducing themselves, year of graduation, their major, where they did their internship, and where they're working now. And we're gonna dive a little more into internships and how they've influenced their career path in just a little bit. So Jessica, go ahead, take it away, please.
Perfect. Hi, so my name's Jess Lulka. I graduated December 2013 with a degree in English and a minor in management from Keene. And I actually had a couple of internships while I was at Keene, but a couple of internships. So the three that I had were with the Keene State Marketing Communications Department for a semester. I also did a semester-long internship at Cobblestone Publishing in Peterborough, which is unfortunately no longer there, I believe, and at the Keene Sentinel, which I did at the end of my time at Keene and also post-grad. And I am working now at a B2B technology publishing company that's based in Newton called TechTarget as a site editor. So yeah, Mara, why don't you take it next?
Oh, hi, everyone. My name's Mara. I graduated in 2011 with a degree in communications. And my internship I did my senior year was at New York Design Shop. It was like a textile ribbon fashion accessory company. And now I am an associate marketing director for Martha Stewart Living Magazine, which is under the Meredith Corporation. And I'll throw it over to Maddie.
Hi there, I'm Maddie Olson. I graduated this past May 2020 with majors in secondary ed and English literature. I also did a few internships during my time at Keene State, but the biggest one was my time as a student teacher at Hinsdale Middle High School. And now I am a 6th grade language arts teacher at Woodbury School in Salem. And Erin, if you want to finish it.
All right, so I graduated in 2019 with a degree in sustainable product design and innovation, and I did 2 minors in geography and management. I had a couple of internships while I was at Keene State. I did 2 years or 2 summers at the Treehouse Internet Marketing Group, and another full year my senior year. I did an internship at Tibco, which was a software company doing product management. And I was a marketing assistant at the Treehouse Internet Group. I don't know if I was supposed to specify that, sorry. And now I'm actually back at the Treehouse doing project management, task management with the PPC team.
Awesome. Great, thank you all so much. So our second question is, tell us about your internship. Where did your what did your job responsibilities include? And tell us a little day in the life. What did you experience? And we'll start with Mara this time.
Okay. So as I mentioned, my internship, my senior year, was at this company called New York Design Shop. And it was really like a textile ribbon fashion accessory company. It was interesting in that it was basically just one woman and myself. So, you know, as an intern, I kind of got to wear many hats, which was exciting. And, you know, her company was kind of a subdivision of a much larger company. So because of that, we were working hand in hand together. So I basically had to do everything that she was doing. This was at a time when, you know, DIY fashion was really in. And at that time, I wanted to be in fashion. And so my job was basically to like go to the store and get all fashion magazines and look on Pinterest and like figure out what was in and cool and how we could do that ourselves using their products. So from ideation to like ripping a page out of a magazine and saying, we can do this using that ribbon and that stud. And then we would, I'm dating myself here, we would film it on like a digital camera and upload it. And I've looked back at them and they're horrifically embarrassing, but at the time it was just so cool because it was, you know, just the two of us. And I was so involved in, you know, what it was that she was doing. So, you know, there was no day that was the same as the next, which was really cool. And really gave me an opportunity to see, like, as a single business owner, what you have to do and, you know, the hustle that it takes. All right, Erin.
All right. Thank you. So when I was at the Treehouse for 2 summers, the first summer I kind of just did whatever they asked me to as an intern, but it was a lot of fun because I got to be in an office setting for the first time, and I mostly helped our local SEO team by cleaning up online listings. So like we did marketing for contractors and home improvement companies. So that was, you know, mostly going through anywhere that you could give a review for the company, going through those websites and making sure that all of their information was accurate. And we ended up going through like 18,000 of these online profiles that summer. It was pretty much all I did. And then the second summer was a little bit more exciting. I got to help design landing pages and do a little bit of coding, which I had never done before, which was a lot of fun. And then my second internship, third year, I originally started an internship at a very small software company, and on my third day there, it was acquired by $1 billion software company. So I got to go through that acquisition experience, and I didn't even really comprehend what was happening when they announced it. I didn't truly understand what that meant. So that was a very unique experience, and kind of going through that transition process. And I worked with the legal team and basically releasing all of our software out under this new kind of legal name, and working with the product management team on basically redoing everything that we've kind of been working on, but under a new name. So that was very interesting. Jessica, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so though I had a couple of different internships, I feel like the goal of kind of all of them were very similar. And so the idea was to help produce and edit copy for publication, whether it was magazines, because at the time, you know, I was still working at places that were doing predominantly print, such as children's magazines, and, you know, obviously the Keene Sentinel, major newspaper for the region. So that was pretty cool, because I would help, you know, copy edit their Saturday and Sunday editions. And they still, at least, I'm not sure if they still do, but at the time they printed on site. So we got to go down and see the printing presses as everything was being made. With the Keene State Marketing and Communications Department, I primarily helped work on the Alumni magazine. So putting together articles, reaching out to interview sources, conducting interviews, and writing pieces that could go in the magazine, whether it was about life on campus, current alumni, and also helping proof the magazine. And then for the children's publishing company that I worked for, it was also very similar. So writing articles, helping find cover art, potentially reaching out to sources or celebrities that wanted to be quoted in the magazines or would be interested in being featured. But that was pretty much the goal, I would say. You know, kind of like Mara was saying, like there wasn't necessarily a typical day because with the different deadlines and stuff for content production, whether it's print or online, things can always be changing, but the underlying current for my internships was getting in office and collaborative team production experience, as well as editing and writing, building out my editing and writing portfolio. So yeah, why don't Maddie, you finish it up?
Okay. So as a student teacher, I was basically the shadow of my cooperating teacher for a little bit. I started off just observing, sitting in the back, taking notes. What do I notice? What do I have questions about? And then gradually the responsibility of specific classes would be released to me. And over time, over the course of the semester, I would eventually take on his entire course load. So I would be their main teacher. And with that comes the lesson planning, the classroom management, communication to home and to other students. I got to sit in on some meetings, like faculty and department meetings, which was really cool and interesting because I hadn't done that before. But yeah, I also had to transition to remote learning and remote teaching because my internship was in 2020, of spring 2020. So that was interesting, but basically just like everybody else, the day-to-day is hard to say exactly what would happen on a day-to-day because things are crazy and change every day, especially one day in March, you're in school and then the next you're not. So things are always changing. And that was a big responsibility, just to be flexible with that and really get to know what it's like to be a teacher and be ready for change at any moment.
Great, thank you. Now that you shared a little background and job description of what you've done in your internship, can you talk about some specific skills that you developed in your internship? So often in my work with our current students, students are walking into internships without any previous work experience or having an internship in the past. So we always talk a lot about some of the skills that they gained. I think it was Erin who even mentioned that, you know, her internship was the first time that she had ever been in an office setting before. So can you touch upon some of those specific skills that you developed while you were in your internship? And Maddie, if you don't mind, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. So the biggest skill that I learned was flexibility. We were always taught, like, being a teacher, you have to be flexible, but you don't really understand how flexible you need to be until you're really in it. So basically just thinking on your feet, if you're in the middle of a lesson and it's clear that it's not working, you have to adapt. So that was a huge skill that really transitioned well into my career as a first-year teacher. I also learned a lot of skills about how to communicate to students during a challenging time. Maybe there's some challenging behaviors, things like that. I was able to observe some parent communication with my cooperating teacher. So that's a huge skill that I didn't realize how much you would be using that in real life. So I think a lot of communication skills, flexibility, like I said, ability to adapt, and just overall classroom management, organization of assignments and lesson planning. It's all those, like, you have all those office skills that you have to develop, like I said, organization and planning, but it's also the more abstract skills, the soft skills like flexibility and things like that. But it was a really great time for me to focus in on skills that would directly translate into the next year for me. Oh, I'm so sorry. Erin, if you want to go.
Thanks. So yeah, like I had said, I hadn't ever actually had a job until I done this internship, and I had definitely never really spent any time in an office other than maybe visiting a parent in their work setting. So I learned a lot of skills, just, how do I send this email without being too casual or too overly professional? I don't want them to think I'm a robot. And I definitely learned how to say, yes, I can do that, even though I don't know how to do that, just so that I could try and learn either a new skill or make sure that I felt like I was valuable to my team. And I would agree that I think there are a lot of, I guess I would call them maybe soft skills that you have to learn in a classroom or in an office setting, of just how to communicate and how to be flexible. And I'd say too, some of that is also problem solving and making sure that you can think critically about a problem your team or, you personally might be facing in the office. And so I think I'd learned a lot of that, and I definitely pulled a lot of that from some of my classes at Keene State also. Mara, do you want to go next?
Yes, I agree with everything Erin and Maddie just said. I think an internship is exciting because you really get to figure out, what it is that you're looking for from a professional standpoint. And then you get to kind of figure out, like, what am I lacking? Like, do I know how to send an email? Like, am I asking enough questions? Like, I think there's just so much room to grow. And because it's an internship that, hopefully maybe if you're interested leads to a job, but there's just so much room to develop and kind of hone in your skills. And I think it's also important to note, like, I'm so grateful that I had this internship my senior year, because I learned how to hustle and, roll up my sleeves and kind of do a little bit of everything. But at the same time, it also made me realize I don't think I really want to work in fashion. So I think that's okay to go into your internship really like wide-eyed, and you can figure that out. And you don't have to go into an internship thinking, okay, in 6 months, I think I'm going to get a job here. And if you do, that's great. But I think kind of releasing that pressure is going to make your internship experience much better. And again, as Maddie and Erin said, like, just a base level of professionalism and how to work in an office or whatever the setting may be, I think is so powerful in, an internship environment. Like, in my industry, we see so many people come in that like don't even like want to pick up the phone, or like they don't want to do all of these other things. And you just have to be ready to say, I'll do whatever you want. Like, yes. And I'm just here to learn and grow. And I am completely going in circles here, but I think the base level of professionalism is really just what I tried to really focus on for my internship, and how I can translate that into a job. Jessica?
Yeah, so I think specifically like for the types of internships that I did, I learned, how to hone my editing skills, because that's its own skill like on itself, how to write for things that I didn't necessarily know a lot about. And that also translated kind of into my career. So all the research and sometimes, last minute papers and stuff that I did in school helped me kind of push towards deadlines and getting those articles written and stuff, but the research skills certainly helped. And yeah, going along with the professional office setting and, working in an office environment, also kind of learning how to make mistakes. Like, it's, you want to be perfect and you want to say like, okay, everything else is like gonna go fine, but learning, the kind of everyone's going to mess up sometime. It's just how you handle it and how you address it in the office environment is huge. And so that's definitely something that I kind of learned, but also to, communication skills over the phone, which I know it's kind of a big and scary thing, but when I was at the Sentinel, I had to call reporters who were on duty at like 11:30. I had to call funeral homes at midnight to like, double check obituaries. Like, there's some stuff that, Mara was saying, like, no one else is going to do it. And, that's okay. Because sometimes those things, practice certainly helps. So yeah, I would say, you know, alongside working in a professional office environment, just, you know, figuring out, okay, what's the basis of, you know, if I do want to pursue a career in this industry, what are the basis things? You know, what are the basic skills that I need to learn? Is there specific software that will help me learn, you know, such as InDesign or, you know, certain content management systems in my case. But yeah, you know, kind of gaining an awareness for what's going on in the industry, even at a very basic level. Because, you know, as much as you might want to try and learn everything, it's just not realistic. So getting a sense for, you know, okay, maybe I'll dive into that a little bit, or, you know, I really should look out for professional certifications in this. I would say those, you know, would be the kind of things that you can look for in an internship. Even if you're not necessarily covering everything, just getting that basic industry knowledge is huge.
Thank you. And I think that's so important. A lot of you touched upon those soft skills and picking up the phone and calling. And I so often talk to students about this. Internships are great ways to figure out what you like, but also what you don't like. Gives you that opportunity to really explore your interests. So taking a step back a little bit now, how did you get your internships? Did you receive any support on campus from faculty, different departments? Can you talk a little bit about how you went about finding your internship? Maybe it was through networking or who you know. And I'm gonna have Erin start, please.
So I got my first internship through nepotism. But not exactly, but my mom worked at the Treehouse, and she told me they were hiring interns. So I came in and did an interview, and they asked me to join their team. And I must have done okay the first summer because they asked me to come back the second time. And my club, I was part of the Speedy Club on campus, and we did a couple of LinkedIn kind of like workshops where we learned more about it, because I honestly had never really used it much up until that point, you know. And I think I also might have done a resume building workshop at Keene State as well. And actually I got my second internship through LinkedIn. The HR person that was looking for people for the internship came across my profile and asked me to come in for an interview, and I did. And I actually beat out a MIT student for the internship because I managed to send a thank you email before he did, thanking them for their time in the interview. So I like to emphasize that a lot, because I think people sometimes forget that. And actually my roommate's looking for a job right now, and I was like, make sure you send that thank you note, thank you for their time. And he's like, oh yeah, I gotta remember that. So make sure you do that. Jessica, you want to share?
Yeah, so mine was actually, I think, through a mix of career resources, and I'm trying to think how I got the internship at the marketing and communications department at Keene State. But the main one that I did at Cobblestone Publishing, which was children's magazines, around my junior year, the English department actually offered a class that was specifically designed for English majors who wanted to spend a semester taking an internship and earning credit for it. So the idea is that you would get support throughout the application process, and the teachers could provide feedback and also possible local connections. And you know, you would still have to apply for the internship, so you needed to make sure that you secured your own internship. But you had that extra support. So with resume review and also cover letter writing. And I also know that the Keene State Academic and College Advising Department, they have their own job board for certain internships and jobs in the area. I actually also had the weird connection of one of the academic advisors at Keene was the same career guidance counselor at my high school. So I had that connection because New England is one giant tiny town. And then the Keene Sentinel, I had kind of heard, you know, just sort of through the grapevine. because I did the Equinox while I was a student. And I was afraid to apply for it because I was like, oh my goodness, what if I don't get it? And I learned that there were only 7 people applying. And so, took my shot and applied for it. So, definitely, I know that sometimes writing cover letters and doing resumes and all that stuff can be very tiresome, but you never really know how many people are applying, and especially in certain areas like in Keene, and not necessarily major metro areas. Maybe not as many people know about it as you think know. So that would be my suggestion. Definitely go for it. So yeah, Maddie, why don't you talk about your experience?
Sure. So being a student teacher, that's like a unique experience in the way that you basically are placed. It's like a placement. So I first started with Hinsdale Middle High School with my Methods 2 placement. So with that, I was just observing, and that was the semester before student teaching. So I would just sit in the back and observe. I taught like 2 lessons to like 2 different classes, but I was able to transition that into my student teaching because the department asked if we wanted to stay with our methods teacher or methods cooperating teacher school. And I said yes, but I still had to go through the process of creating a resume and creating a cover letter for the principal at the school. So I had a lot of support with the education department and the education licensing office, as well as academic and career advising with the resume and the cover letter. So, I sent it to all the people that I needed to, got all the feedback, and just kept changing it and changing it and changing it until I was happy with it. Because even though it was still my placement, we still had to practice all of that so that we would feel like we were ready when it was time to do it for real, for a real job. Mara, if you want to finish it up.
Yeah, so I think there's no shame in the networking game. I will admit I got my internship from a family friend. And, I think you use the resources that you have, right? So like, if your friend's older sister works at this company that you're interested in, like, see if she can make a connection. If there's a company that you want to work for and you find someone on LinkedIn, like, there's no shame in reaching out to them, like, you have to, make the resources that you have work for you. And if you don't have them, you can find them. Obviously there are a lot of great resources at the college, but, it's kind of what you make of it, right? So, I just think being proactive about kind of your future, your next steps is really helpful. I loved Erin's point about the thank you card and writing, a note after. We will not give people job offers in my industry if they don't send a thank you note, whether it's an email or a handwritten one. That is like such an important thing. And I think people don't do that anymore. So when you do it, it's really special and it shows that you care. My husband is in his early 30s and he's applying to jobs and he wasn't going to send one. And I yelled at him. I was like, you have to, if you're interested in this, you have to fight for yourself and you have to make them, know that you're serious about it. So I think that's really important. And again, just, using the resources that you have. What's the worst that someone's going to say? They're going to say, no, we have no internships. Contact us as next year. That's, at least you tried.
Thank you. And I'm going to do a shameless plug for my department, academic and career advising, and also my role as the internship coordinator at Keene State. I work one-on-one. I see a few of my students in this meeting, so I'm really happy about that I've worked one-on-one to help them throughout their whole internship search. So I have many students that walk in without a resume and they say they have no idea what industry they want to be in, but they have an idea that they want to be in HR. I will help you with all processes and procedures related to kind of your internship, resume to mock interviewing, to accepting your offer. So just a little shameless plug for my department and the work that I do around supporting internships. So on to our next question. So talk a little bit about your classes at Keene State. You all have different majors. How did they prepare you for your internships specifically? How did you take what you have learned in the classroom and apply it to your internship? We talk so much to students about that they don't have had, that they did not have to have an internship prior to applying to one, talking about making that connection between their coursework and their internship. So can each of you talk a little bit about that? And Mara, we'll just start with you.
Yeah, so Kristen's probably going to yell at me for saying this. I personally feel like, and I went to Keene 10 years ago, so again, I'm dating myself and I don't remember what college was like, but I think it's what you make of it. So, you know, at the time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like, yeah, I wanted to work for a fashion magazine, but I don't think you have to decide right then and there. So I think, you know, taking what you know that you like from certain classes, and whether you have a major or a minor, whatever, and kind of saying, okay, me personally, like, I liked my media classes, I liked my journalism classes, and kind of like keep that in the back of your brain when you're going out there and searching for jobs. And I also think it's okay to get a job for a year and be like, I don't really like this. I think I like X, Y, and Z. So, you know, it's hard for me to remember every single class that I took at Keene, but I will say, I mean, retrospectively, looking back on it now, it's like, oh, that makes sense. Like, I liked all of the journalism classes, I liked all of the media classes, and now I'm working at a magazine. So it all worked out in the end. But I think it's okay if you don't know what you want. And again, Kristen's probably hating me behind her mask right now, but I just want to be honest. Jessica, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure, I can go. So yeah, I think there's some correlation, I think, in the classes that I took, like I mentioned kind of earlier, the research skills, and some of the writing skills as well. And also, you know, the more specific correlation of, you know, I got to take an internship for class credit. But, you know, I currently work in B2B technology marketing, you know, technology content, which I absolutely love. But, you know, my English literature isn't necessarily, you know, I'm not bringing that up every day. But still, I think with certain internships, depending on what you're applying for, you can definitely use your college classes kind of as experience and list them as relevant, you know, relevant knowledge areas that you can bring to an internship. So, you know, before I did my internship at the children's magazine, you know, I put on my resume that I had taken a course in children's literature one semester. And, you know, kind of having, you know, different, you know, British literature, all that other stuff, as well as some of my management classes that I was able to use as experience. So even if it's, you know, you don't necessarily have, you know, the office experience, like Erin was kind of talking about, you know, you can still use some of your college classes as a way to say, you know, hey, I don't necessarily have the, you know, direct job experience, but I do have some of these knowledge areas that I'm able to, you know, kind of apply or take these skills, or, you know, show that I can learn these sorts of areas and use them within my internship. So, you know, there's obviously the writing that I did, some of the editing, I guess, but that was sort of, you know, self editing, not necessarily teachers or peers. And, you know, the critical thinking and research of how to put content together is definitely what helped me. But yeah, Erin, you want to continue?
Yep. Sorry, I just have to comment really quick. I just realized that your hair is purple and I absolutely love it. Sorry, a quick break from that. Yeah, so I majored in sustainable product design and innovation, which was a very hands-on major where I was doing a lot of like working in the wood shop, working in the metal shop, building things and making cardboard chairs that I can sit in for an hour that they don't break. So I took a lot of those like problem solving skills and kind of like design challenge skills and applied them to projects in my internships. We did a lot of group projects in my major. So, you know, working with a team as well, a lot of those skills. And I think also too, you know, communicating in a group. And I had to one of my capstone projects was designing, manufacturing, and selling a product in a semester, and we all had different roles as a group trying to do that. And, not everyone's going to put in the same amount of effort that you do, and kind of trying to balance that out is a lot of those skills. And sorry, I think I actually lost track of the original question. So sorry.
It's okay, Erin. The question was, how did your classes and time at Keene State prepare you for your internship? So you were doing a great job. You were on the right track.
All right, perfect. Sorry, I was so lost in the purple hair. I just,
It's okay. I totally understand. Do you want to pass it on to Maddie? Perfect.
Okay. I'm lucky enough that my classes really aligned with what I was doing, because I majored in both secondary education. So I was taking all education classes, building up how to manage a classroom, lesson plan, all of that. And I was majoring in English literature. And then I was teaching language arts. I was teaching English. So lucky for me, it all felt purposeful, right? So I was able to gain the skills of teaching in my education classes, and then gain the content knowledge that I needed to teach to others in my English classes. So that was really helpful. And of course, I also learned all of those, like working with teams and communication skills, all of these things that you learn in class by just being a student. I was able to use in my internship, but I feel very fortunate that my two majors directly aligned with my internship, so that my classes really felt like they had meaning and had purpose.
Thank you. So we're starting to wrap up a little bit and getting into some of our final questions until we turn it over to attendees for kind of a Q&A with the panelists. Can you talk a little bit about, I'm going to tie the last two questions, I guess, a little together. And you all have touched upon this, but any new perspective on your career that you gained from your internship? I know, Mara, you gave the example of this was a great opportunity to find out that you really didn't necessarily want to go into fashion. Any other panel members have any thoughts around that, around how their internship helped them gain perspective on what they wanted to do after college?
Yeah, I can start.
Thanks, Jessica.
Yeah, this, it definitely solidified that this is what I wanted to do. And this is exactly kind of how I wanted to do it. I know that, a lot of editors don't really work with pen and paper anymore, but getting the chance to see like the whole nuts and bolts of the production process from the newspaper to a magazine, and learn, how the business of a publishing house operates, really gave me a good perspective of like, okay, I definitely want to be an editor within publishing and doing what I, kind of want to do. So that certainly helped.
Great. Does any of the other panelists want to add anything else to that question? Maddie?
I think I just want to echo that. It was a great opportunity for me to be like, yep, this is it. And even though I really enjoyed my time as a student teacher in high school, I knew I wanted to try middle school as like my career. But I still have like such a great love for teaching high school. So I know that eventually like I'll want to change it up and rotate, but it's really nice to know that I have that experience too. I have high school experience and now I have middle school experience. So I definitely think that it just solidified what I wanted to do and helped me expand expand my like wish to try new things. And I felt like I could step out of my comfort zone and apply for middle school jobs, which I would never have pictured myself doing. So that's the new insight that I got from my internships.
Thank you. Erin or Mara, anything else to add to that?
Yes, oops, sorry, Mara. Well, so after the first week of my internship at Tibco, the software company, I was like, I don't want to be in software. I'm just going to get through this summer and then that'll be it. But by the end of the summer, I ended up actually enjoying it quite a bit and I stayed on for the rest of my senior year. So it was kind of nice to just force myself into that situation and, you know, stick with it and figure out if I really did like it, if I really didn't like it, if I could survive it. And of course, you know, you never know where a connection is going to come from in your world, whether it's right now or if it's in 10 years. So, you know, don't burn any bridges while you're at an internship you may not like, because you never know where you're going to meet them down the road.
Totally agree. Yeah, I think, you know, I mentioned this, Kristen mentioned this, but the internship made me realize that I didn't want to be in fashion, and kind of realizing that made me realize in turn what I actually did want. And, you know, from that, I realized that I wanted to work at a magazine, and, you know, I wanted to be in New York. And, you know, I still learned all of the professional skills that helped me when I finally did get a job. So it's not like there was a loss there. It still greatly benefited me, and it was, you know, a great experience. But sometimes when you figure out what you don't like, it in turn, you know, makes you realize what you do like, which I think is still as powerful, to be honest.
Absolutely. So wrapping up with our last question, do you have any final advice for those current Keene State College students who are considering an internship? Any advice for students? And I'm going to have everyone answer this one too.
So yeah, I'll jump in again. So definitely take advantage of any and all on-campus resources, whether it's academic advising, whether it's professors. That's part of your tuition that you're paying, and it's going to be a heck of a lot more expensive if you try and get a consultant after or elsewhere to do it. And I believe, Kristen can verify this, that Keene State Academic Advising is also available to alumni. So that's not necessarily something that goes away, but it is a true, I think it's a hidden gem of the campus, and everyone should take advantage of it. Because, you know, for me, part of my goal was to establish myself with, unfortunately, you know, unpaid internships, which I was definitely privileged to be able to take. But by having the unpaid internships on my resume, once I left college, I could start getting those paying jobs and not be stuck with unpaid internships post-college. And yeah, I think, you know, have fun with it. There's a lot of different types of stuff out there, and you don't necessarily have to limit yourself to what you think might be the perfect internship, or the perfect job, or, you know, the perfect type of role. Like we've mentioned before, you know, it's all a learning opportunity. So yeah.
I'll go. I think for me, it's two main things. It's kind of the networking and using the resources that you have. I think that's so huge. And especially like as you get towards the end of your time at Keene State, utilizing those things, obviously have fun at the same time. But, you know, utilizing all of those resources and reaching out to people and making those connections is extremely powerful, and better if you do it sooner rather than later. And the second thing is just to hustle. Like, if you want to be there, make it known, you know, ask questions, you know, always ask people if they need help. Like, that goes such a long way. And, you know, if it is the career path that you are interested in, like, you could be hired. Like, we had an intern for like 3 or 4 years. I think she came every single summer that she was in college, and we hired her. She's been on my team for 3 years, and it's perfect. Like, that's the goal, right? But so I guess those are my two things: networking, using your resources, and then just hustling, making it, you know, known that you're a hard worker and that you want to be there.
I just want to add, if you know that you're going to be sending out your resume to a few places or a lot of places or no places, have one email that maybe you use for just that, because I set up an email where I put it on my resume, I link it to my LinkedIn, and that's the only thing I use it for. I use it for jobs and maybe any other adult stuff like credit cards, but that's the only thing I use it for. It keeps things really tidy in there, so I don't, lose track of, reply backs on things around jobs. So I thought that was really useful. Oh, that's my nugget of wisdom.
I think that we've mentioned earlier that internships, you do a lot of the things that others aren't going to do. So I think that my advice would be the person that's excited to do those things. So when they ask you if you want to stay later to work on this project, or if you want to take on this project that you might not like, do it and act eager about it. Even if you're not, you'll convince yourself that you are. And so it's a hustle, and this is the time to hustle. So just keep going until you figure it out. Just fake it till you make it. That's what I felt like I was doing. And now I feel like it was all worth it. Like I got it. It makes sense what I'm doing with my life right now. But I also know that things can change, and that's okay. So being flexible, hustling, and just trying to be excited about everything that you do, show them that you are the person that's going to be excited and willing to try these things that might be out of your comfort zone. That's what I would say.
That is an awesome way to wrap this up. And now I actually want to turn it to our students, faculty, staff that are participating in the panel session. If you have questions for the panel members, feel free to either one, you can type them in the chat and I can read them off, or you can actually unmute yourself and ask your question. Any one of the panelists, all of them. So if you have any questions, go ahead, and I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. Feel free to unmute yourself, share, ask away.
Hi, so it's Bethany Morgan. Ooh, we have feedback. Hold on.
Yeah. Sorry, technical difficulties. Give me 1 second. All right, there we go. Bethany.
So our question is, how was working with a site supervisor different than working with, a boss at your first job, or working with a professor on campus?
I need clarification on the question.
So basically, how is it different? How is it working with someone different than, your first job that you might have had at Dunkin' Donuts or babysitting, something like that, that a lot of, maybe traditional college age students have as jobs versus a first time workplace, like traditional office job? How did your dynamic with your supervisor or director, whoever it was, change?
So I can quickly just add something. I think one of the big things, whether it's working with an internship supervisor or a versus a boss, I think that one of the big things is like who you report to or who you ask for things. So with a professor, it was very much like, okay, I'm working with this professor. And with an internship, I would have one kind of boss who I would go to, and I would say like, okay, is this what I'm doing for today? Is there anything you want me to do? Versus a job where I have my boss, but then I also have directors that my boss report to who might email me separately for things, and figuring out like, okay, if this person emails me, like that's priority, not necessarily something that my boss asked for, that's kind of down the line, and kind of prioritizing tasks depending on who they come from. So that's definitely a difference.
Thank you, Jessica. So we have a question from one of our students, Kate. Oh, Maddie, did you want to touch upon that?
Oh, she's muted.
You're on mute.
Sorry, still don't have the hang of Zoom. No, I was ready to answer Kayla's after you introduce it. I feel like
Perfect. I'm glad. So Kayla Taylor, she has an interview for an internship this Friday. It's a phone interview, and she wanted to know if any of you have advice prior to the interview because she's nervous. So Maddie, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So I just felt like I could totally do this one because that was most of my interviews were over the phone or on Zoom. And I had the opportunity to do one in-person interview before the pandemic hit. And my biggest advice is to practice just talking to yourself. Like, you know it, you know everything that, like, be confident, you know what you're doing. And I think that the issue is that sometimes we forget that, and that we think that we don't know as much as we really do. And even if you don't know the answer, just be honest and say, I don't know that yet, but I am so excited to learn about it. That was a big thing, because they asked me questions about teaching and I had no idea, some of the things I had no idea. And I was like, truthfully, this is a new concept to me, but I'm really excited to have the opportunity to learn about it. And just be honest, just be you. And that's, if you're going to get hired for a place, you want them to want you for you anyway. So I think that's a big thing. There was something else I was going to mention about phone interviews. Oh, interviews in general. I feel like just make sure you look up and do some research on whatever you're interviewing for, because it's really great when you pull in like a little fact about their program or their business and being like, I really enjoy that you have this philosophy. And it helps when they ask you if you have any questions. You already know a little bit about their company, so you're able to answer some things or ask some things. So things like that. Just, I'm rambling at this point, but just be confident, you know what you're doing, and be you. And that's really all you can do.
Yeah,
You go.
I feel like the kind of few main things that I do think about for the phone interview. So think about, what are some of the reasons you'd like to take this internship? What would you say are your biggest strengths and your biggest weaknesses? I know those are kind of cliche interview questions, but it's always good to have something. And, you know, the biggest weakness question is kind of a tricky one, because you don't want to say like, oh, I'm disorganized and I'm consistently late. But just if there's a way that you can kind of frame that to say like, oh, my go-to is, I don't know as much about X, something in the industry, as I would like, but with this internship, I could learn more about it. That's kind of how I navigate that question. And, you know, also just maybe writing some things down, if that can help you. So you have a reference of, you know, you're not on the phone and then you freeze and you're kind of like, oh, I don't know what to say. But yeah, those are kind of my three main things.
Mara, do you want to wrap up?
Yeah, this is something that's so silly too, but like I get really worked up about like presentations to like large groups or, you know, whatever it is. I don't like communicating in that manner. And my friend actually told me this week, which I tried to do, but like this 2 minutes before you're about to get on the phone, just take 10 really deep breaths. You will be so surprised at how much that like changes your perspective and just like grounds you. And it's something so small and silly, but I mean, I do it before presentations and it just makes me feel better. And the other thing I want to say, again, this is so simple, but you know, when life goes back to normal and you're taking in-person interviews, bringing multiple copies of your resume is key. Like so many people show up without a resume and then we're like, you know, scraggling around to print it out or something. So two very simple things, but they go a long way.
Great, and Erin just added a little bit of feedback to Kayla in the chat that you can see. Any other questions as we kind of wrap up and get into the final minutes? Any last question from any of the members who've joined us tonight? Anything else that anyone would like to add or ask? Okay, I think that's it. Awesome. Thank you so much to Mara, Jessica, Maddie, and Erin. Thank you so much for taking the time tonight to participate in this. This was so valuable. We really appreciate all of your time and sharing your wise words of wisdom. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yay. I'll do an applause of one. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. Thank you, everyone. Bye.